Pinni is stuck in traffic, and so the goal is for him to get on as soon as possible. As soon as that starts, they're gonna ping me, and then we're going to see what's going on. But while we're waiting, I haven't done this in a while, so I'm gonna join a couple of games and just see what happens. But I'm not. We've got one game first. Oh, we gotta follow. I can't see who you are yet. I'm losing time very quickly. I haven't played in arenas in so long. Okay, I like this. Oh wow, the follows are coming in like crazy now. This is hype. Anyways, I really like this line against the Mexican defense. I think I normally go this way. So it's basically a free king every game. But we'll see. Hello, Sequela. I will now take this piece. I got lots of options that are all pretty scary. I'm pretty sure this is just safe. I actually don't have that much time to think about it. Okay, this is just completely winning, if I'm not mistaken, in two different ways. But I'll do it this way. And a good game. So there's one. Wow, Beerus has become really, really good. Or Beerus. So yeah, for those of you who are just joining, Pinni is stuck in traffic. Can't play yet. I wish my bar would come up on the side. That would be pretty nice. Also put in chat openings you want me to play. Oh. Now we get to test to see how good I am at converting lost openings. I'll do this one. I actually haven't played against d4 in the longest time, so this should be interesting. Like this? Yeah, that'll work, I guess. Bang. Alright, this is a good start. 2 wins! I'm back. Yeah, I wonder why. Hold on, maybe if I reload, it's not coming in. Whatever. Okay, game 3. Game 3. Game 3. Okay, this is completely winning. I know that's the best move, because it takes away this. But I'm still pretty confident in my abilities to convert this. Let's go this, I think. Take. Dude, I don't know, man. I guess I'll do this. What am I doing? Here, take, here, take, here. That looks happy. I didn't really convert it that well, but I'm still pretty confident that I'm gonna win this. Let's go like this. Actually, there are some chances. There are some chances. I didn't really pay too much attention this game. But there could be something here. Arun types lol. Yeah, this is a struggle. At least I have a king promotion incoming. Knight promotion might have been cooler. I'll just dance around in the corner. I'll just do this. And now my king's very nice on this side. There's not a lot. You're trying to bring your rook out, but there's not a lot you can do. Oh, I screwed up, but we're good. We're good. Yeah, I'm fast enough where I can flag that. Alright, so a very ugly second game win. Pepsi's playing. Oh my gosh, Pepsi's playing in the in the arenas. It's funny. You don't often see Pepsi here. Alright, game 4 against Pally Spirit. We see the meta defense. I've been choosing between knight a3 and knight h3. Knight a3 is way stronger. Knight h3 there's a lot more traps. I'll just play a strong one for now. I haven't done this in a while. And queen g4, take here. And now I captured the bishops, then I don't have to capture a second time. And we don't want to do this because then that puts the bishop off of a diagonal that would be nice to use. So I'll just move this piece first. And then this should be completely winning. I'll just go here, I guess. Nice. So, good game there. I don't know why my stream isn't getting picked up by the arena. That's kind of frustrating. But whatever. GG to Pally Spirit. I see you in the chat there. Got an 1800 now, number Watt. I'm gonna go for the Liardet just because it's the only thing I've played for a very long time. I've been playing the Polish a little bit too, and maybe even some Marmalizer. This line's the most common line. I actually started it a lot at one point. That's the right move, maybe? Maybe this? That looks to be decent. I shall move my queen to a8. And I shall now take this piece. I'm looking very happy here. Maybe... Interesting. I think this is winning. Because, this along with this, so if queen captures first, then I just capture this pawn, this rook opens up. And otherwise, there's a double attack on this pawn down here. So that should be it. I'll just move this pawn up, because why not? And that pawn up, and the rook across. And just for good measure, we'll capture this piece on the back end. So it's actually going pretty well, I won't lie. Rip indeed. Okay, JK, sorry if I butchered your name, actually been like ripping me to shreds lately, but that's okay. Interesting, I actually don't see that move a lot. I don't even know what to do. C5 or C4 is always an okay move. Like, I've never seen a position where it's bad. Okay, I should be able to take advantage of this. I might even be a little tricky and bring this bishop out, because most of the time people will do that, but I'm assuming it's fairly safe. I guess it's not. Oh yikes. Oh wait, it was safe. It was safe. I screwed up. It's okay, because my opponent also made a mistake. Okay. And we'll go like this, just set up. I'm probably going to go here, so I'll open up for my rook. This pawn should definitely get moved. Move my rook. I'll go like this, and then I just need to keep my bishop in a non-capturing place. Move this up, prepare for the double capture, and then of course we capture a piece at the end, because why not? So, not bad performance. Average opponent of 1700. Okay, we got another close to 1800. The problem is here is in games like this, I've only gained 4 rating points, but if I lose one, I'm going to lose like 15. Okay, I'll go for the double knight attack once again. And we see the same thing from DMer as we just saw from someone else. Forget what game that was. We take there. It's trickier if you can recapture back, but I still have confidence. Probably here, maybe? Yeah, that seems about right. And then I guess I'll just move my rook onto the open file. Move my knight here. Actually, this isn't looking too happy. Maybe if I do this first. Yeah. See, that's why it's good that I didn't push this 2 squares and I moved my rook onto the open file. Now I have this nice move. There we go. And if the pawn is captured, then I have a nice intermediate here, in which I capture the bishop. And now I will force him to capture my bishop first, move my rook away, and that is the game. Help me get from 1300 to 1500. Thanks. Of course. I'm looking to make more videos soon. Just been a little bit busy, but we'll get there. And we get our game versus Beerus. So for some reason I thought Beerus had a really good attack versus b6. I actually really want to play the Marmalizer right now. Just because most people play bishop a6, it's actually not the best move. It actually leads to like a fairly nice position for black, or a fairly similar position, I should say, to playing c5. I'll play here. I'm guessing this or that. And then I will do this, open up my bishop, expecting b5. It is good that I have both these pawns taken, because if this pawn wasn't there, obviously I take rook here, takes this, and then I'll have to recapture back. I don't think there's any intermediates here, and we see this anyways. Bishop captures is bad. This I can pressure the knight, and if the knight ever comes over somewhere funky. Oh, that's actually a really nice move, I won't lie. I ain't gon' cap. Oh, this is really ugly. Is there anything I can do? Yikes. I didn't expect that to be that strong. Okay, I guess I'll do this. I'm running out of time though, which is less good. I guess I kind of have to do this and hope for the best. Actually, I'll go like this. Yeah, this isn't looking good. We'll capture this way. See, this is the problem. This is definitely a winning position for me, but I just. Oh wait, whoops. And Pepsi's here. Oh shoot, I can hear myself through my phone. Yeah, that was a little rough, but. See, that's why I like the 2+5 games more, is because I can get into a position like that and win. But, okay, her JK again. We haven't gotten Pepsi yet. I really want to get Pepsi. Okay, this is the Nagorko defense we're seeing. I think the most difficult to play is one of these. Okay, knight there. I push the pawn. I have sort of a nice position here. Okay, I'll bring the knight to f3, because now I just have nice places for the knight. Okay, and so I'll just grab more space here. The idea is I eventually, actually I don't know if I want to say that yet. The idea is eventually I want to move this pawn. Ooh, that can't be good, can it? Okay. Rook here. Oh, actually, is looking less happy. Oh wait, I still have. Oh wow. Guess I'll do this. Oh poo. Oh wow, that's too bad. Yeah, now I'm blundering all over the place. Don't learn from me, kids. I think I'm still quick enough, though. I feel okay. I gotta be quick though. I can't be slacking. Oh, I missed that. That's too bad. Okay, that's helpful. Oh, I had rook maybe? It's okay. So, yikes. So this is what I'm talking about. Is I'm going 8 for 9 and I'm still down rating. You saw 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. That is correct. Okay, so that didn't work. This doesn't normally work. Let's see what Beers plays against c5. And we have the tailman attack. I don't like that move. It's just really annoying to play against. Because this isn't actually that good. Oh, wow. Holy cow. Interesting. Wow. I'm being so outclassed right now. Thank you for the follow. I'm being massively outclassed. Oh wait. Okay, so let's start with that. And then maybe go... Ah, that doesn't work, dude. I don't know what to do, man. Holy cow. I'm getting outplayed. Guess the ELO for Antichess. That would be a very fun thing to do. Like say, okay, here's a game. Because there's some... There's some people who just fool around. Wow. Okay. I want to take a look at that actually. I don't know what I did there. What are you supposed to play against d3? Knight a6 is the only surviving move. That's wild. Probably because then there you got that. That's good to know though. Okay, let's try again. We've dipped below. So I know this is winning. If pawn captures, then I'm pretty sure that's the move. I studied this once. Bishop, okay. I feel pretty comfortable now. I might do something like this. Maybe here. For rook captures, it's fairly straightforward. I can play here. I got a lot of different things I can do. I'll start with this, I guess. Then the knight, and then... Okay, so I guess I'll go here. Force this capture, and here, and get the rook there. Activate windows. Oh, whoops. Ah! Okay. Is Pepsi still playing? That's the question. I see he's in the chat. Against Pally Spirit again. Ah, berserking. I can't not berserk back, but okay, let's play quick then. The meta defense is very useful when you're trying to play quick. Bishop takes, I have this move. And then we go crazy. Man, what's going on? Oh gosh. This is looking less good by the second, but I can play this move. Play there. Rook over. Oh, what am I doing? It's okay, I think I can flag. Okay, I got very lucky there. That was close. Good game to Pally. Okay, so that's it for this tournament. I'm gonna look at that game too, because I know there was a win there, but I just completely missed it. Probably. Knight b4 is the correct move, I think. Okay, so it's just not winning. Rook d8 was the right move. Rook d there. Okay, so this just looks bad now. I don't know what to do next time, man. Rook takes, queen takes, knight a6. Knight b4, bishop takes, c5 takes, rook d8 takes, rook d3 is not happy. Rook d3. See, this just feels bad actually. But rook b8, king d8 suit, so I didn't have to rook b8, king d8. Yeah, that oh wait, sorry, going back. That does make sense. This feels a lot nicer to play, because then, I mean, maybe this, and then I can, I don't know, knight h6, and now my rook's fine. Yeah, something like that. So that's done. I haven't gotten any news. Okay, Pinni is home and starting the computer. That's a good sign. So I shall, one moment, I'm going to join the voice chat over here. Can you all still hear? Still hearing? Still hearing good? Still hearing goodly? Skitty pa pa pa. Okay, poggers. And then I'm gonna get our friend ddxaidan.
Hey, hey.
Hey, look at that. What timing? Perfect timing. How's it going?
I knew when to join. I'm on the stream.
Oh, perfect.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Doing pretty good. That was
Good.
fun to watch you play the hourly.
Yeah, it was rough, but you know, we have some you always have some rough ones, but yeah.
True. I would have lost at least half of those.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So awaiting the match between Pinni7 and GrohochetGrom, both very respected players. Do you have any predictions? Any predictions for this match or anything like that?
Tough for me to say. No, I have no eggs in the basket.
Yeah.
Metaphorically, but GrohochetGrom had such a strong performance. Nothing against Pinni. Love you, Pinni, but I don't know. I feel pretty good about GrohochetGrom dethroning.
Yeah, that's right. And we're also looking probably at several Liardet defense games. I know it's Pinni's favorite. GrohochetGrom is also a very well versed in the Liardet, so we're looking to see a lot of it. I'll go to the analysis board just to show what we're looking at. Most games, I can't imagine them starting with much else other than e3, but I guess you never know. And then following that, we'll probably see a lot of b6 and a lot of a4, which is the wing defense. Is it 2+5? I think so. Yeah, Tullius. And anyways, most of the time we'll see this variation. This is the strongest variation recommended by Watkins. And most often we will see this. However, the thing that may vary in these games is after here we've seen Pinni7 play a lot of the fish test defense, which is Queen e2.
Not to interrupt you, but match is starting.
Oh, perfect.
Between Pinni and Grohochet.
Well, let's take a look in here. And right away we do see a Liardet, but instead we do see bishop a6. I'm going to watch from White's perspective, actually. That was pretty quick. I'll go back. So we see bishop a6 immediately. Queen g4 takes and rook b8 after queen takes and knight takes.
So first to 5.5, so even the draws matter.
Yep. Every draw, every point matters, and as you can see here, it's a fairly even score, 106.5 to 78.5, maybe a little bit more in Pinni's favor, but you never know. For example, GrohochetGrom was the second place at the World Championships this year too, the one and only Pepsi in gaming.
GrohochetGrom already in the think tank. It looked like they were both blitzing out the moves. So and you were right. We did see an e3 b6 Liardet defense. So it seems like that's going to be the opening of choice for both.
So knight c3, just then the rook doesn't have to recapture, go back, and so it captures, blocks the rook from ever having, because you might have some issues with something like queen a5 and then bishop a6 and g5, and that's pretty rough. Idea of king d2 is just if that pawn advances, then your knight doesn't open up for your rook, your king can just capture there. An interesting move here of knight c6. It actually discovers two different attacks directly on this knight on b4 here. If you give up this knight, you're going to have to capture, and one thing it definitely secretly does is it opens up for this queen on h4, but we see a mad capture fest right here.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to simplify to a less piece-heavy endgame. At least for GrohochetGrom, he's going to have to play with the pawns against the queen, bishop, knight, king, rook. Quite difficult.
Definitely, yeah. And especially
only if Pinni7 can... Yeah, he's going to have to keep in mind that the queen, though, I imagine is...
Yeah, it's definitely very powerful. However, certainly for GrohochetGrom, it's a little bit difficult, because knight e2, you might have trouble. I guess not maybe if he's calculated, but c3 becomes a threat, and then your knight can't really move anywhere from there. If you played knight h3, you were lost. Like, there's not a ton of really good moves here.
True. Oh, nice queen move.
Attacks both these pieces on h2 and d4, which
Yep.
which both most likely result in a loss.
Yeah, good pinpointing. Find two weaknesses. Attack them both. Also gets rid of the queen, which could have been somewhat of a hindrance later on, but yeah, nice find by Pinni.
Yeah, I was just gonna suggest maybe knight f4 here, because after the capture on h2, the knight will capture, and now it actually looks really good for white, because queen captures, knight captures there, and however you do have the queen that can come back and capture on h5, as we just saw.
The lone pawn endgame.
If we go back a couple moves, if you have the rook capture instead, then rook captures, and then after this rook capture you advance the pawn, and you're lost. So let's go back ahead. Again, the importance of endgames like this with one lone pawn for white is you want to make sure, if you have a bishop, you need to make sure this pawn promotes onto the same colored square, so then you can prevent a draw with from a bishop promotion on the opposite colored square, or you have to give up the bishop either way.
And that could be true unless Pinni7 wants a draw out of this position.
That's true.
It's possible he could think that there's no way he could win it if he lets them promote, right?
Yeah, that would definitely be a smart move in that case, because if you don't feel like there's any way to win it, but maybe you can force a draw, then maybe that's what you want, and sometimes in matches you're even thinking, okay, if I can get a draw with the black pieces, that's exactly what I want to do.
True. Taking a lot of time on this move, Pinni, thinking probably what's the best. I mean, you have to prevent all promotions, right? And he's only got five moves to set up for it, or four actually. No, 5, right?
Yeah. So the immediate thing you have to look at for is you got to be aware of this pawn push. So something like bishop a6 might be possible. Something like one of these king moves might be possible eventually, like king e8 or king c8 eventually. Like, you just want to allow the pawn to get all the way, because if you disregard it for a second with something like c3 maybe, and you push the pawn, then you pretty much have to give the king away. I mean, I guess you don't really have to. You can maybe move it back, but it just becomes somewhat of a nuisance. However, now thinking of it, maybe something like c3 followed by, so c3, d5, king e8, push the pawn again, give up the king there, takes, then again you're stuck with rook promotion. Could be somewhat of a nuisance. Thank you for the follow, National Master Jacob. This is...
Pinni spent already a minute 30 on this move. So maybe he's not seeing... Possible that GrohochetGrom has just too many possible promotion ideas. hard to stop all of them.
And that f6 move is also very important. I guess having the bishop on b7 is good, but for those of you who didn't know, in this position, if there's no bishop here, knight promotion directly wins because it attacks. Okay, so they agree to a draw with opposite colored bishops, as we see. We see e3, and we go for the modern defense this time. So e6, but it turns out to look a little bit like we could morph into a Watkins line here if b6 ever happened, but I guess not.
Looks like queens are off the board already. Oh, no. Pinni not yet with his queen out. What do you think about openings like this where there's, I'd say, much less activation for one side? Like black now has no pieces developed, kind of an invading bishop, and some nagging problems. What do you think about that?
They can definitely be tricky to play sometimes. Definitely having a queen a lot of the time is a very nice advantage. However, black may have some mating ideas here with maybe something like knight f6, like with the bishop being trapped down here on c8 originally, maybe something like knight f6 followed by knight g4 possibly.
Oh, interesting, grabbing the queen.
Yeah. Or even something as Pepsi and Gaming mentioned, h5 could also be an idea, is after the bishop captures g8, rook captures, then the queen has to come back and capture on h5. However, it might be a little trickier because your rook defends the king. Even if you move the king up, then takes here, then you're threatening that. So anyways, knight f6 and knight g4 is what we see here. If the capture here on h7, then the knight captures on h2, the rook has to capture, rook captures, then the white rook has to come down, we'll have to sweep all the pieces. So right here, queen takes g4 is definitely the trickier way, I would say. Something like g5 here looks very
Might
strong.
as well not make it easy to mate him.
Exactly, yeah.
Good point.
And then here I would just play something like rook f8, pawn takes, bishop takes, there it is. And then you play king e7, knight d7, and you're just completely winning. So, good first win for GrohochetGrom.
I'm guessing we'll see a return to Liardet. And we do. Yeah.
GrohochetGrom perhaps playing bishop a6 in the first game to try to avoid Pinni's theory in this line. And
this is right to the Watkins line, right?
Yeah, this is the fish test defense. This is like the second sort of recommended. Number one is queen g5, but the proof for that is a lot, like, people have done a lot more research and a lot more studying on this, whereas this line with queen e2, maybe mate in like 20 less moves, but it's still something ridiculous like mate in 100, so no one's sort of finding that, and it's still very tough to play. For example, white's pushing the pawns up onto the queen side. Black's pieces are very stuck on the queen side. However, moves like a6 can prevent that. You might have to be aware of something in the future like queen e2.
Yeah, and it looks like we're already getting to a position where that queen can do something there. Yeah, we see it, queen f3. I think the dark squared bishop for GrohochetGrom, though, could be somewhat of a nuisance, having all have Pinni's pawns on light squares, or a majority of them at least.
However, we do have a tricky position here for black. Queen's coming down to capture this pawn. Obviously, if king or knight recapture, it could be tricky. Knight captures might be a possibility to survive. There is an immediate capture here. I personally don't see any immediate follow-ups with it, however. King d6 is an idea. Yeah, Pepsi brings up a good idea in chat. How does white make mate after knight takes e6? Like, it's not easy. If there is, then it's very tricky, because obviously your knight is forced to capture on a5 immediately, but you sort of given away all your pieces on the queen side. There's nothing that you can get there immediately, and you have no b pawn now because of the original doubling of the b pawns in the opening.
And he's given a lot of thought to this move. Gotta be careful.
Definitely don't want to miscalculate. However, if black does survive this, there are some tricky things with maybe king d6 setting up, and we do see rook to f8 there. This could be setting up for something like king d6 to, king d6 and then knight to e7 and both of those.
Oh, true. Setting up for some pawn captures. It looks like Penny's realized what you were saying earlier about no pawns being available to continue the knight capturing on the b file at least. It's going to take more setup than that for a checkmate.
So GrohochetGrom here, starting to think.
Yeah, what do you think his plan should be here? I mean, develop pieces, get out pieces, push pawns. Like, he doesn't really have a lot of options now that the knight is not captured, and he looks like he opts for that.
The tricky thing here might be that he's just too confined in the king side of the board. You do have pawns advance, but again, there doesn't seem to be any solid continuation that just finishes the game. And if black is safe here, black does have the major piece advantage, and the space advantage. So black's looking okay for now.
I agree. Have to be very precise in this situation for black, though, because one slip up is enough to collapse the whole castle.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's all going to be about piece maneuvering. With only 50 seconds, tough to see if you'll be able to do that, but the time control is going to allow for some leeway with +5.
The +5 is kind of increment for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of like similar to your endgame in the hourly, where +5 on the clock, you probably would have been able to convert such an endgame.
Right, and those +5, maybe even +10 endgames certainly benefit the side with more pieces. You're going to have a lot more time to think, a lot more time to use all of your pieces, like your major piece advantage.
Interesting, giving away the king.
And the rook. So bishop promotion rook promotion is what we see, and that looks to be game with knight g1,
knight
g4, h3,
True.
and h4. So
True.
we now
Tough to work your way out of that one.
Definitely, yeah. So 2.5 to a half, and we see a classical. And when we go for the Bosnian defense, this is the main line recommended by Watkins, if I'm not mistaken. b4 and c4, both played.
Really, they both know a lot of theory here, blitzing out moves.
Both all. Again, this is one of those interesting things that we were talking about last week, where some games you would see both players after 10 moves be down to like 30 seconds, and some games you get to like move 20 and they're both on 3 minutes. So it just shows how well they studied the theory. For example, f5 looks extremely dubious here, but it's actually the strongest move, which seems a little bit crazy, but not only does it provide room for your king, it also advances your pawn, and there's no immediate way you can take advantage of this. For example, someone might be thinking g4, knight f3. The only problem is now, if you give up the king, for example, then your bishop's vulnerable, and if you give away the bishop on h6, then after the capture, the rook also has to come down and recapture, and by that time, it's something like black has a king and a bishop and a couple pawns, and white's just complete with pawns, which is definitely more helpful to black.
Did you say this was a Watkins approved line? So is this some sort of eventual mate for white?
It is, but it's very, it's not tricky. The basic idea here is you want to keep black's bishop as trapped as possible by pushing your queenside pawns, and hopefully black's, in general, black's maneuverability is just so low that eventually you're just so stuck white controls most of the board. However, again, this is one of the strongest lines in the classical defense, so it's probably close to a mate in 100, similar to a Liardit defense, but maybe slightly weaker. But yeah, but it's not easy to play at all.
So not a gimme for Penny here, at least.
Now we see this crazy looking knight f3 move, which you might think, like in a fast time control, you might immediately play g5 and then something like, I don't know, king to e6, and then knight takes g5, bishop takes, and after, like if we see that line, for example, g5, knight takes, king e6, knight takes, bishop takes on c5, then white actually captures the pawn on c7. The bishop has to capture again. Now this bishop is stuck here on d4, and it's just really nice for white. So you got to be tricky here. g5 isn't an immediate, like you can't just play it.
Definitely is a nasty pin for GrohochetGrom with that king on e7.
Yeah, definitely.
So is that part of the reason why f5 was a good maneuverability move? Give his king some space, give his bishop some space.
Yeah, definitely. Like a lot of these pawns, and even again f4, it's just you want to grab as much space as possible. You want to allow yourself to move as much as possible.
Interesting.
I
Opts
see.
to push the pawn. Is that main line?
I don't know at this point. I knew up to about f4. We have a suggestion of g5 and king f7. G5, knight takes, king f7, knight takes, bishop takes, pawn takes. Then you're going to give up the knight. You got a double capture in a row. Your problem might be... It was probably made, actually, now looking at it. But it just looks tricky at first because you might not see the immediate...
Yeah, that pin might be harder to spot in a fast time control, for example. But GrohochetGrom being 2200, of course, easily spots that's losing. Doesn't opt for any g5.
G5 may have actually been okay, though, for black there, with g5 king
Oh,
f7.
really?
But, because the crazy thing is with the f5 pawn there, knight h6 might have been okay because then you have immediately two captures. But going for knight g5 anyways.
See, this is why you're the master and I'm the 1900.
But
plays knight g5 anyway.
Yep.
Gonna try to make that pin as hard as possible for GrohochetGrom here. We gotta just see that this is the same position except there's no pawn in f5 anymore.
Exactly, and maybe, and then maybe now it becomes a lot trickier because previously if you played like g5, king f7, and then the knight takes there, you'd have something setting up. For example, you'd have knight h6, the knight takes, and then that pawn on f5 there was already there. So then you set up that double capture. Maybe you push something like a5, and then maybe you're winning. But now it's a lot trickier. You don't have that extra setup. So white will certainly be able to get the bishop to move out, move the king over, and force a promotion. So a lot of people suggesting a5. A5 just grabbing space. You also want to pressure the bishop. So we'd see g5, king f7 now.
Yep,
and now the problem is maybe last time you could push your a pawn faster because the knight would have to capture on f5. But now you don't really have that option. So now we're probably going to have to see something like king c2, move the bishop out.
Yeah, now we see where that 2+5 comes in crazy because they both got a minute after the first 13 moves of the opening, but without that minute, GrohochetGrom is down on time. So is Pinni. So
right.
+5 coming in useful for him. I mean, how do you even approach this as white with the G and F pawns hanging out so far back?
The main thing is you definitely want to keep these pawns connected, at least for a moment. Pinni doing the smart thing, getting rid of the bishop. And now the big idea is preventing rook promotion, which is actually fairly well prevented because your c pawn is so far advanced. That's what Pinni did very well, pushing the c pawn very far, because now when you give up piece to black c pawn, your c pawn is already further pushed. You can promote faster. And I think the main idea of this knight move is to prevent bishop promotion as well. Just get it to a nicer square before, if bishop promotion happens. We would see the capture on a2. Maybe then it's a little trickier with knight f7, but with this move here, knight f5, Then after bishop promotion, they'd have to take the pawn. You could play something like knight g7 to knight e6, and then it's all set up nicely.
Force it to a king endgame. Now, when I'm playing these type of things, I never know whether or not to take the easy way out, grab the c pawn and then let the other pawn, my other pawn, go with as the king and pawn as black here. But is it going to be better for GrohochetGrom to leave that pawn there, or to try and free it by taking the white c pawn?
I would say for black, you might be risking a little bit by trying to give it away.
And it looks like he's doing exactly that.
Yeah.
You see it on the board.
The tricky thing is white's pawns are just so much faster. You might even be able to see 2 rook promotions in which it's much easier for white.
Interesting. It's going to be first to 5.5, Pally Spirit. GrohochetGrom at 2.5, Pinni at 1.5 right now.
And now you see... You might even... Maybe rook d8's an idea. And that's what we see. What time?
Immediately.
Because you can't give up the king, obviously. You give up the king, it's just losing. And otherwise... The idea here is to throw the king off a little bit, so then you can promote with the f-pawn. You couldn't promote to rook last time because king f4, rook takes in c4.
True. But right here, the king and pawn are just far enough away that there's no way to... or the rook is close enough to the pawn, rather, that you can't sack king first and then move the pawn up for mate. He's going to have to get out of the way.
In king f3... we can see rook d4 here and takes, and then f8 equals rook, which is crazy.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
very nice.
So rook d4, c takes, and then after the rook, the problem is you want your king to end there the next move. And there it is in rook promotion. Oh,
bishop promotion. Stunner.
Yeah, rook promotion was certainly a lot better.
A lot
rook
faster.
Was
bishop
winning immediately.
Bishop looks like it might be a draw now, because
yeah,
GrohochetGrom's not forced to move that pawn off of the light square complex, so he could just move his king around and around.
And now we'll just see
and now it's gonna be a draw. Missed win by Pinni there.
Yeah, a close one.
Interesting, very close.
And GrohochetGrom opting for knight e2 this time.
We saw this in the hourly arena as well, didn't we?
b6 knight e2. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, from Beerus, I believe.
Right. And so this bishop coming down. See, this is a little bit stranger. This is more, I assume, older theory that GrohochetGrom would have played years ago. You don't see it too much from many people anymore. Most people are very eager to get rid of the bishop or just play a4 immediately. So knight e2, switching it up a little bit. Pretty interesting.
But plays definitely to some good principled anti-chess. Develop your pieces.
Yep.
Make sure they're grabbing space.
Doesn't like you don't have to give away pieces right away.
Very true. Bishop moves out.
It's actually a little bit of a tricky position here for GrohochetGrom. You can't. Like h3 immediately, you may run into problems with your rook opening up. Normally in positions like this, if your bishop's gone, you can play something like g3 and threaten h3, rook g2, and then future f3. But if you do that now, then the bishop covers f3, so you'd have to take.
If it were me playing this, I would just play g4 and then got mad when I lost.
An interesting idea here by GrohochetGrom. We see an offer for a queen/rook race. Bishop h3 here, g takes h3, and then the queen comes and captures on d1, and the rook will go down and capture on g7, which maybe GrohochetGrom's idea is to take on h7 and then opening up black's rook to the h-file. Maybe that's the idea here. Normally you want to have a queen in the queen versus rook race, but maybe that's what we're looking at in this position, is opening up that h-file.
Yeah, and I was going to say, we saw a lot of queen / rook versus queen races in the arena last week from GrohochetGrom.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe he's just knows he's studied up on it and trusts himself enough to go for a rook versus queen.
Mm-hmm.
Penny not quite sure if he wants to accept yet, though.
Being very cautious. Definitely looks enticing, but you never know. And we do see
Nope,
it.
and he does go for it. Presumably, he found some sort of win or advantage. Gives queen away immediately, though.
And this h6 move, just so then the rook doesn't open up. If you do have rook takes on g8 and rook recaptures, then you're also threatening h5. So if you give away the bishop, then your problem is now you're stuck. Like now we see GrohochetGrom doesn't have a king. Pieces again, once very stuck. You can't play knight. You can't play knight d2. You can't play knight c6. Sorry, knight c3. You're gonna have to play something like knight a3 to open up your pieces.
Yeah.
But then again, you're gonna have tricky things with c5 is coming.
Yeah, and the always annoyance of having this rook and knight next to each other, A and B file, is that both of them will always guard b1 or b8. So probably tough to maneuver them outward, especially now that the pawns are kind of guarding the squares that the knight wants to move out to in 2 moves.
Mm-hmm.
Or in other words, his own pawns are going to block the movement of his knight. Probably what Penny was going for.
And I actually see a really interesting suggestion by Pepsi and Gaming in the chat. I don't know how he saw this. Knight b6 by black. And Penny finds it. How crazy is that? Because you attack this pawn right here on a4. And if you try to block it with knight a3, then knight takes, and now the other knight comes in.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
That is
what a move.
Wild. I was surprised when Pepsi suggested in chat, and then Penny actually saw it. I was like, oh my goodness. What
a nice move.
That's the type of gameplay we're watching here.
Very principled. It's kind of a mix between, you know, having too many defenders, but having the only blocking move also be another over defender.
Right.
Super interesting.
Yeah. So I'd guess rook to b8 here. And that's what we see. If knight captures the a pawn, then you have rook b7 immediately, and then you just set up for a million captures. And okay, white just resigns.
Yeah, you're just seeing a resignation. Wow.
What a crazy move. Knight b6.
Yeah. Penny not gonna make it easy. 2-3 now. In the match score.
We see another modern, and this a4 move once again.
Or bets now. Will it transpose? Nope, not to Dead.
That would have been fun. This
is the same line they had played in an earlier game. We'll see if.
Except this time we don't see a recapturing of the queen, or the queen taking some other place. We see the bishop coming up and capturing on e6 for white. But again, we see another one of these positions where black has no bishops, but 2 knights. And meanwhile, white has a lot of pieces, so it's pretty tough to digest and tough to go through.
Okay, and rook b3, and I just want to say, in the last game we saw similar to this position, Penny never had the chance to move the rook off of a3, so he's already taken a diversion from that earlier game that GrohochetGrom won.
Mm-hmm. And queen coming down to h5 here. Just multi-threading. You don't have to give away this rook right away. There's no crazy threat that you have to be worried about. Rook b8, you just recapture with the knight. Rook b6, you capture with the c pawn. And even if you give away the a pawn now this bishop's really stuck. Like a4 and a3 are coming, and so that doesn't actually look very good for white. Just looks better for black. So black doesn't have to rush by giving away a knight or giving away a rook at any time. But does anyways. Goes for it anyways.
Does anyway. Still not the worst position for black. Not
until this.
Until now, perhaps.
However,
I spoke too soon, maybe.
However, doesn't look immediately like I can't find any continuation immediately.
Always.
Normally with bishop f6 here, then the knight has to capture, but GrohochetGrom, having played king e7 earlier, allows him to recapture with the king if we do see bishop f6. So a very important move that we saw from earlier, now just showing up.
Always got to be on the lookout here for intermediates too, as white, right, with the rook on an open file.
Correct, right.
I was gonna say rook h8 almost looks nice, but
yeah.
You can capture the knight and then king and then pawn, and you're safe as black.
Right.
So.
A good option, but the problem is then you're just left with pawns. There's no solid continuation.
Very true. So we see bishop to f8.
However, bishop to f8 could be... Okay, so we see this, and now black has a knight, but white does have more pawns, which could become a threat. For example, you can't move your knight anywhere right now. You're very, blocked in.
Trapped.
But if you can get your knight out, maybe it's an advantage.
I would have thought c5 be played there, just to completely block off the knight from moving without taking. Yeah, okay, we see it now, at least.
Yeah, so now knight a6 and knight d7 look very, very...
Yeah, both completely blocked off.
Unviable, yeah.
I mean, black's kind of in the zugzwang. They just have to... GrohochetGrom just going to have to move his king back and forth.
Right. And now pushing this pawn.
Yeah.
I think the idea here is if you ever want any chance of getting back into maybe maneuvering your pieces, you might have to sacrifice your king on b6 and then follow it up by playing something like knight a6. But it doesn't look very, it doesn't look that nice.
Doesn't look nice, but if it's the only hope, it looks
exactly.
like what he's going for. Pinni, noticing that he doesn't have to sacrifice that f-pawn immediately. Waits a move, brings the king up, and then does it now.
Just bring the king to a nicer position for sure.
Definitely. Do you see an obvious mate for white here, or is it still...
I don't see anything immediately. The problem is you can give away your c-pawn, but it doesn't do much because you still have that e-pawn there. Both players playing very quickly now, just sort of racing to get their promotions as fast as possible.
True. What do you think the promotion for Pinni here is?
Promotion for Pinni is a little bit... I can't make an immediate idea. I know for black, rook promotion is immediately safe. Maybe something for white is maybe you might have e8 equals bishop if I look immediately. You can give your king away and then your knight away. However, black may still even have rook promotion after that.
Well, he's taking a lot of time on it, so he's thinking as much as we are. Opts not to promote at all.
Yeah, moves the king back, just says, okay, you're not going to promote a rook right now.
Oh, true. So we can get on the c file.
Right.
That prevents that entirely.
I need to stand up. I've been sitting down for so long.
The mid-match stretch, always a necessity.
And we see a bishop promotion, which is interesting. However, what it does do is it does possibly allow eventually... Oh, but a very nice king promotion.
Nice tactic.
Yeah.
D7 overprotected.
D7 protected by 2 pieces, and that's the only place that you can go, so...
Fun. So Pinni ties it up, 3-3.
3-3.
And that's 2 wins in a row.
And if I'm not correct, sorry, hopefully... Okay, and we see bishop b5 here. Anyways, I don't know if I'm correct for sure. I might need someone to correct me in the chat. I'm pretty sure if it's 5-5, then they play 2 more games, and if it's still tied at 6-6, then the current champion stays champion. Yeah,
I believe that is the ruling. Is after 2 more games, Pinni will retain the crown.
So this is main line. This is theory. It looks really tough for black, but it's another one of those lines where it's if you can survive, then it's really, really good for black.
Both of these players very good at surviving.
Yes, definitely, yeah. So it's not an easy way to play for black. Like, a lot of people opt for something other than c6 when bishop b5 comes. But Pinni going for these longer lines. However, now already looking a lot nicer. You have one bishop that's not so trapped anymore. Knight's developed. You got double rooks as well. The immediate threat is obviously queen taking on h2, so you got to be careful about that. And so the idea of this, maybe just capture with the knight. And so
True. Looks like it defends fine. No immediate threats.
mm-hmm.
This is another position, though, where Pinni is up many more pieces than GrohochetGrom.
Yeah, exactly. And for those of you who are wondering, knight takes h2, you might think, oh, g5 could be scary because the knight would have to capture g4, but then you have f4, g3, and then the knight's already attacked. You can move your rook somewhere like b1, then you just take there, pawn takes, and now black's rook is opened up on the a file.
So once again, one of those things in where if this were a lower time control game or two players with less experience, that might be the instinctual move, but definitely not the best one.
So rook a1, getting it off of this dangerous h file. Because although there is an immediate threat with that, it's always sort of annoying. You can't ever move your knight because your rook's there. So.
e5. And just like the slower pawn play, taking space. What do you think GrohochetGrom's plan in this position is? Looks like he's offline currently.
Hopefully he gets back.
The Comcast Gambit. Very nice.
Yeah. Very tactical maneuvering. But
yeah. Hopefully he gets back online. Doesn't go out of time. If Pinni's good sport, he'll probably give him some of the time back.
And if not, there's still like white's still looking okay. Okay, and he's back.
Oh, nice.
So it doesn't even lose much time at all, actually. Knight f1. And so yeah, so b you're gonna push the b pawn. Because you just want to give more space to your bishop. Maybe eventually you can play something like bishop a6. A couple of people in chat. One, Kex is saying Aiden sounds like a 2200. And
I wish.
And Pepsi asking why rook a1. Does seem a little like a weird move. You're not immediately like it doesn't immediately feel like a threat. But again, maybe GrohochetGrom really wanted to play knight f1, but you couldn't play knight f1 immediately. And so maybe this idea is something different. Maybe you're gonna push your d pawn eventually. Maybe play something like knight d2. And
this is now somewhat scary for GrohochetGrom, no? With the knight now ready to pounce on either d5 f5, setting up some capture for that. No longer has to recapture with the pawn.
Yeah, the only thing is you might not even want to give away your knight yet. For example, if you give it away on d5, there's no immediate counterplay. Like, you just feel a little more stuck, almost.
Okay.
Knight to f5, again, it's more or less you're just sort of giving away your piece for now, whereas keeping your knight there, maybe there's something more useful for it in the future. Knight to d2 we see here, so maybe that was this idea of rook a1, and then knight f1 to d2.
It's really a quite solid plan, though. He's gonna get space on the queen side where he's got less presence. Do you think that b pawn of Pinni's is a negging problem, or is it an asset in controlling the queen side?
It's definitely nice to have, for sure. You just want to be careful that as you push it more and more, for example, if you push b4 right now, You got king c3 and then rook e1 perfectly lined up. But having it there right now is a little bit nice. Like, for example, you can't move your king further up the board that way. It's tricky to get your knight involved. Your rook can't take control of the file yet. So it is a little bit of a nuisance for white right now. You just want to be... Black does need to be a little bit careful with it. H5 here. And people might think this is pretty dubious because of g4. However, it's not that bad. G4 and then something like knight f3. Even if you give up the king on e2 and the rook on something like, I don't know, give up the rook somewhere, you're always going to have some sort of promotion. Black's going to be completely fine.
In that position, I would have snap played g4 and then forgot, and then played f3 and forgot that my knight recaptures. I'm glad GrohochetGrom doesn't do that.
Yep.
Instead, opting not to blunder.
Yeah, opting for the for the stronger approach.
Knight e6 is a pretty strong move. Still now keeping a threat on that e pawn, but not really weak to any pawn pushes because the f pawn would be too slow and the g pawn is already gone.
The one thing Black definitely has to be careful of here. Oh, okay, and Black moves the rook. I was going to say the pin on the rook on the f2 square, because eventually if you do want to do something like play d4, or sorry, d5 maybe, and then bishop e6, if the king ever has to recapture, then the rook would have to come down and capture f2. But now we're seeing a really interesting position where it's not super clear yet, but both players are under 20 seconds.
Yeah, this is not something we've seen in the other games, actually. I don't think either of them have gone below 20, but now Pinni at 10 seconds and counting. GrohochetGrom with only 16. Opts to sack the king.
So the only problem now here is most likely going to be the g-pawn. Like, what do you do with the g-pawn? However, if you can set up enough captures in a row, it could be a little bit tricky.
Now GrohochetGrom, with his remaining time, has to find a promotion that doesn't lose.
Right.
A tall order, only 4 seconds.
So king, always sort of the safest promotion, but you do have...
looks like it's a problem here.
Yeah. However, if Black doesn't push the g-pawn fast enough, it could certainly be a problem.
There's certainly outs for GrohochetGrom here, I think. Is that there's like you said, there's no way to get back to that g-pawn. So even if he has to capture everything on the queen side here. Nice. Noticing that a5 is double protected.
However, if GrohochetGrom can get some time back here, maybe stronger, have to play f3 or f4 here. Now move the rook, and then you probably want to keep your rook if possible.
Yeah, and he has only a couple seconds now to find the right place for the rook to prevent all possible promotions, which I think
rook b4 is the way to go. Most likely, from what I see at least.
b4, sure, to prevent rook.
And it also prevents bishop, which is really nice. Bishop promotion, you just move the rook somewhere, and then you can set up a lot of different things. Maybe eventually, then you play rook b5, a4, knight b3, and e6 wins the game. So king promotion.
Another safe play we see with low time on the clock.
Yeah.
Not bad. So do you think this is defendable for GrohochetGrom?
With this time, it's going to be very, very tricky. However, now I see maybe even something like king e3 might be possible, because both knight and rook guard d4. And so now you have to play rook e4, and it looks complete or that.
Yeah, and it looks like he's gonna have to guard the last pawn with only the knight, which is extremely difficult in only 2 seconds.
Yeah. And
this is gonna be winning. The king is within the pawn square. That's tough.
So Pinni making a nice comeback here.
Yeah, 3 wins in a row to make it 4-3 on the match.
Just grabbing a little bit of water. So now we see the immediate queen h5, known as, I'm pretty sure it's sort of a sad name, but the queen attack.
You'll never guess why we call it that. And And this looks like similar to a line we saw earlier, right, where the rook comes all the way down onto the 7th rank.
I may have realized I haven't been switching the board, but in either case, I'll play it from White's perspective now. This time I'll lead at difference from GrohochetGrom.
I feel as if we've seen this pawn structure before from Pinni, pushing up the E and G pawns.
Often a common theme, the Liardet, is push your e-pawn when you can, as White.
And does that just offer you space without threat, or why is the e-pawn a common denominator?
Oftentimes, if you can push the e-pawn, in the Liardet, Black often keeps both bishops. So pushing your central pawns makes it tough for Black, because pushing central pawn back sometimes result in, for example, if you push e6 right now, then your bishop hangs. If you play d6 right now, your bishop hangs. And White always has the option of playing something like d6, which doubles the pawns, in which, once again, you physically cannot move your d7 pawn, and if you move your d6 pawn, then the bishop hangs. So it's sort of like, against these bishops, it's like pushing your central pawns is often strong if possible.
And some people in the chat commenting that h6 is quite overloaded.
And I don't know, there might even be mate. I was thinking there might even be mate there after bishop h6, king takes g5, followed by f4, knight f3, king e2. Like, you might even see a mate there. But
we don't see it on the board. We see knight e2 first, so no knight f3 possible. So maybe going for knight f4 rather than pawn f4 in that sequence.
Right.
Oh, because then the king can come to e2 and connect up to the lower down d pawn. Right. Interesting.
This looks
so now, yeah,
this
that definitely has to be defended now.
And you can't even give away one of your pieces on h6 because obviously you're just gonna have to recapture immediately.
GrohochetGrom definitely in the think tank now.
And so yeah, just very stuck down here. I don't even know how. Forget how the king made it to h7 in 14 moves, but
yeah, I was gonna say that does seem like an odd king position, but regardless, it's, I mean, once the king is there, it's now you've got three pieces on h6, all of them losing just because of that g4 pawn. Yeah, down to 14 seconds trying to come up with some kind of defense. Opts for b5.
And yeah, actually, bishop captures might be... Okay, actually, bishop captures was not a way out. I was thinking, if bishop captures and knight f4, you're actually safe. But Pinni would have just played knight c1 instead. Reason because if you play knight f4, then both the knight and the king guard d2.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see a quick mate sequence here from Pinni. Yeah, not too hard.
And there it is. So Pinni at 5-3 now. Only needs a draw to stay our current champion, winning the last 4 games in a row. I gotta flip the board around.
GrohochetGrom gonna have to come up with 2 wins back to back against a 4-peated Pinni. Kind of tough to do, but player of his caliber, not out of the question.
GrohochetGrom was the, if I'm not incorrect, has been, oh, I mean, I know for a fact that it's been incredible this year, but Antichess World Championships was the runner-up. Antichess 960 World Championships was the runner-up. I'm pretty sure in the Lee Antichess World Cup, which was 1+2, he was the champion, so obviously a player of that caliber can do a lot of crazy things, and this time opting for a queen race.
Going back to his bread and butter, as we saw from last week's arena, definitely he's pretty comfortable in these queen races. We'll see how it works for him. I'm not even going to try to commentate this one. I can't calculate this.
No, yeah. And oftentimes I almost feel like in these positions, most of these players aren't even calculating immediately either. Like you're not looking, oh, okay, where are these four pieces lead to? It's more of just like there's more just systems you go through in queen racing. For example, you'll see them always keeping a lot of options. You'll see them capturing the king. In this case, I wouldn't even calculate as Pinni doesn't just capture the king on e1. Now you can capture on e3, you can capture on d2, you can capture on c1. And again,
and we've talked about.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
No, you can go.
No, all you.
Okay. And another thing that we were talking about, and we see both players doing this as well, you don't want to capture those 6th or 3rd ranked pawns, or even 4th or 5th ranked pawns. Those are the pawns you want to leave for the end. And so these players immediately, even though they're sort of going crazy, and even though Stockfish may give recommendations with other, they're so difficult to capture that these players just sort of have systems that they go to. So don't capture these 6th ranked pawns because often it's tricky. And yeah.
But it looks like GrohochetGrom kind of has a tough route because everything is quite connected with the e pawn to the knight, the c pawn to the h pawn, b pawn to the b pawn to e pawn, so on and so forth. Kind of forms a diagonal loop.
And the only thing I don't love about the position of GrohochetGrom is if you can, you sort of want to end capturing on the h7 pawn. Because then you don't have to capture either this e or b pawn, but in this case you can't. Like if you go back, you're like if you end on the rook, then you've got e5 and b5, which are threats.
True. There's not going to be a way to leave both the b and e pawn and also end on the h pawn.
Mm-hmm. You see now, this is when the players start to calculate, not in earlier times, but once they sort of get down to 5 or 6 pieces, and then you've still got like tens of variations that you have to work out in your head all at the same time. But
yeah, quite difficult. Even when these only 5 or 6 pieces left, or pieces and pawns, you can see it's extremely tough to calculate.
Mm-hmm. One thing you definitely, white definitely has to look at first. You can't capture c2, then knight e7 is just completely winning. So you immediately nullify that, and then you're looking at, okay, do I capture this e6 pawn? Do I capture this h7 pawn? If you capture on h7, you're most likely going to see rook captures right back, knight captures, and then you've got a rook and knight for black. So h7 looks a little bit risky. Capturing on e6, and then you got to calculate, okay, what happens if queen takes d2? What happens if queen takes a4? What happens if queen takes b2? So
good for him to be able to at least rule out the c7 pawn, though, right?
Yes, definitely. Like, I mean, like you immediately know white can't capture on c2, and capturing on h7 is a little bit, it's pretty risky.
Yeah, he's gone down all the way down to 14 seconds here. Shows you how tough these queen races are, even with only 5 pieces remaining.
So we do see queen takes e6, probably just I don't know what else to play, and queen e6 maybe buys me some time. And Pinni now, with this extra time, sort of allowed to think here.
Yeah, definitely has the edge on time. Going to give him a lot of. He's got 3 options here: D pawn, B pawn, A pawn. What is Pinni's route? What do you think? Which pawn does he want to end on?
I don't know. Again, it's very tricky because all the pieces are very connected. And even if you end on something like, for example, the a4 pawn and the b2 pawn aren't necessarily connected, but the problem is if you end on the a4 pawn, then b3 or b4 is possible. If you end on the b pawn, then a5 is still tough. So I think it's just going to be a scramble for luck in the very end.
Yeah, funnily enough, it's going to go down to time here. Both of them under 15. As for the d pawn. So GrohochetGrom also had all of Pinni's time to think, so maybe he's come up with a plan. I have no idea.
And so now you'll probably... Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even know how to calculate that. And we'll have to
I
look
know.
at that after.
No idea. Good lord. But
Yeah.
GrohochetGrom with the win. Could force the tie here.
Could force the draw, which would force 2 extra games. We see the immediate Queen H5 again. We saw this in the Antichess World Championship, so I'm pretty sure Bishop B7 was the most common move like this. And if I'm not mistaken, something
If he
like...
plays C5, I think we've seen this position before too.
I think Queen C8 is the correct move here, but I could be wrong. Or sorry, Knight H... yeah, it's tricky. It's again...
This is... Depending on whether... If he opts for the pawn here, it's quite an uncomfortable structure for black, no?
It is. However, the knight's also tricky because B4 takes A4, and then you take the... It's tricky to calculate. Knight takes A6 might be the stronger way to go. Sorry, as I'll repeat, B4, A4, and then your knight ends up on C2. You're probably going to see E4, and then knight takes A1, which is a little bit uncomfortable with your knight on A1, but it's not completely losing. And meanwhile, you also keep a queen. You don't have to double your C pawns like that and make it pretty uncomfortable. However, your knight is stuck on A1, and your queen doesn't have a lot of options.
And looks like he's going to go for that.
Most likely E6 here. E6 or D6, but E6 probably most common.
Yeah, E6 definitely. So he has a chance to get rid of his knight if he wants to. And he does.
So GrohochetGrom always the option of just giving away the queen if he's ever in trouble, but against double knights, less pawns, E pawn's fully advanced, it's not going to be easy.
Meanwhile, Pepsi Gaming dropping jokes in the chat.
Yeah, I started playing Antichess the moment I was born. Feels like Chessalt says this feels like the antique defense, but without the C8 bishop. It really kind of does, and I think that's because of the knight takes on C6 sort of idea, followed by B4, A4, and E4. And so giving up the queen.
Pinni up from his original time. GrohochetGrom down from his original time. And it's going to be pawn and king versus some knights and change with the king.
And so
this looks like it's quite difficult to manage for the black pieces.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'll let
definitely.
you continue.
Yeah, and I was going to say a lot of people think, oh, why not E6 here? The problem is you just capture F takes E6, and now your pawn's sort of stuck in black's end, and you can't promote to anything. Knight promotion, you got D5. Bishop promotion, you got C5. Rook promotion, you're pretty much done for. So you don't need to push E6 yet. It's not like, or a couple moves ago, it's not mandatory. We do see it now.
So the F pawn is finally freed up. Some forced capture of knights.
So opts to try to promote this as fast as possible.
And what promotion do you think he's going to aim for here?
I can't. I don't know. It's kind of tricky.
Pawns are mostly connected, so
yeah, I have to imagine king is pretty safe. Because the split here on the B file. Definitely, I can't imagine a rook promotion going on.
Yeah, I don't see a way to stop king actually, just because of the
immediately if
the open B.
If there's no if black doesn't play D6, yeah, king promotion should just win because D6 is forced right now because F8 equals knight just wins otherwise.
Oh, true.
If you don't play D6, so then after D6 you have king promotion. King E7 takes, you have to move the C pawn. You take the D pawn, yeah. And now we'll probably see king promotion. Oh, but still knight promotion.
Oh, knight anyway.
Oh, it's still nice. because the
That's
d-pawn
brutal.
can't move, yeah.
That is brutal. No follow-ups after king d7 because of
Right.
that block d-pawn. And that king, of course, will be able to easily get itself captured by one of the advanced
And
pawns.
black resigns, so Pinni, for the second week in a row, defends the champion title. First against Never Smart Enough, and now GrohochetGrom. Very, very interesting games. Pinni still the champion. Congrats to Pinni7 and GrohochetGrom on an excellent series.
Yeah, very nice series from both players.
Mhm.
GrohochetGrom had an early lead, but Pinni pulled it back 4 games in a row to end it.
Yeah, pretty solid. Anyways, I think I don't know when the arena will happen, but as soon as there will, as soon as I know, and as soon as it's decided by the International Antichess Federation, definitely there will be a message sent out over the www.antichess.org team. Hopefully we can get a lot of people playing. It was a great match today. Maybe next week we have GrohochetGrom again. Maybe we have a new person. Maybe we have Never Smart Enough again. Who knows? But in any case, a very excellent series. I also want to thank ddxaidan for jumping on and commentating as well. Great,
Yeah,
as
of
always,
course.
to have you.
Very fun to watch these excellent matches with you.
Definitely, yeah. But anyways, thank you all for watching. Hopefully you play in the next one, and we'll see you around. Thanks for watching.